Your brain, for all its complexity and mystery, was designed to be a sanctuary, a sealed fortress of neurons, glia, and synapses carefully protected by the blood-brain barrier. But in the age of industrialization and invisible toxins, that fortress is no longer impenetrable. It's under quiet siege. And one of the most potent infiltrators is something you can't see or smell: airborne particulate matter, especially the fine and ultrafine particles, known as PM2.5 and smaller. These microscopic invaders are increasingly being recognized not just as respiratory or cardiovascular threats, but as prime suspects in triggering a chronic, smoldering fire within the brain itself: neuroinflammation. And this persistent immune activation may be a major driver of Alzheimer's disease and other forms of neurodegeneration. Here's how the biological betrayal begins. Fine particles, those less than 2.5 micrometers in diameter, are so small that they bypass the body's normal respiratory defenses. Once inhaled, they pass deep into the lungs and from there, enter the bloodstream. That would already be bad enough. But some particles, especially ultrafine ones, less than 0.1 micrometer, are even sneakier. They can travel directly from the nasal passages into the brain along the olfactory nerve, bypassing the blood-brain barrier entirely. In other words, the same path you use to smell fresh coffee or rotten eggs is now a neurological backdoor for pollution to walk straight in. Once these particulates reach brain tissue, or are delivered there via the bloodstream, they spark chaos at the cellular level. Microglia, the brain's resident immune cells, are activated as if responding to a threat. This is normal in short bursts. Microglia help clear out debris and protect neurons. But when pollution exposure is chronic, the microglial response doesn't shut off. Instead, these cells remain in an agitated state, releasing inflammatory cytokines like IL-6, TNF-A, and IL-1S that damage healthy neurons and impair synaptic plasticity. It's a case of mistaken identity. The brain thinks it's under attack, so it starts to eat itself from within. This chronic neuroinflammation not only disrupts brain signaling but also promotes the buildup of beta-amyloid plaques and tau tangles, two defining features of Alzheimer's pathology. Multiple animal studies have shown that long-term exposure to PM2.5 leads to increased accumulation of these toxic proteins, particularly in the hippocampus and cortex, regions essential for memory and cognition. In one experiment, mice exposed to traffic-like air pollution for several months showed impaired memory and significantly more beta-amyloid deposits than their unexposed peers. Their brains quite literally looked older and more diseased. In humans, the data echoes these findings. Brain scans of people living in high-pollution areas show signs of cortical thinning, white matter disruption, and reduced functional connectivity. Older adults with higher lifetime exposure to PM2.5 are not only more likely to develop dementia, they also experience faster cognitive decline, even if they start out healthy. And the risk appears to rise even at levels of pollution considered safe by current regulatory standards. There may be no truly harmless dose, especially when the exposure is relentless and lifelong. This isn't just about aging brains either. Studies now show that even young adults in polluted environments exhibit early markers of neuroinflammation, reduced attention span, and decreased executive function. Some autopsies of teenagers in Mexico City, one of the most polluted urban areas in the world, have revealed preclinical signs of Alzheimer's. Let that sink in. Signs of Alzheimer's in teenagers, not from genetics or lifestyle, but from the air they breathed walking to school. All this points to a devastating conclusion. Air pollution isn't just passively harmful, it actively rewires the brain's immune system, turning it into a chronic source of damage. And the effects may begin earlier, last longer, and be more widespread than previously imagined. This raises uncomfortable questions. Are we underestimating the true burden of Alzheimer's by ignoring environmental contributors? Are current public health strategies, focused on genetics and aging, missing the invisible fire being lit in the brain by the modern atmosphere? Until stricter air quality regulations are enforced and mitigation strategies are adopted at the urban planning level, this neurotoxic threat will continue unchecked. Brain inflammation doesn't cause dramatic symptoms overnight. It builds slowly, insidiously, without warning. By the time memory loss, confusion, or personality changes become obvious, the damage may already be entrenched. And worse, it may be irreversible. So the next time you think about pollution, don't just picture lungs or skies or distant factories. Picture your brain, delicate, electric, and quietly inflamed. Because in the polluted world we've created, every breath might carry not just oxygen, but an invisible match. And your brain is the fuel.